You are watching the flagship show on the Fired Up Network. Let's all get fired up on Fired Up Live.
Well, are you all fired up? Joseph Pasek here with the broadcasting legend Storm and Norm Rumack on 12 Ounce Sports, part of Fired Up Network. We've got a lot to discuss, especially over the weekend. Final Four is now set. And Norm, I got a surprise for you. I'm going to try to get a special superstar to preview the Final Four for Thursday's Fired Up Live. All right? He's actually calling right now. Norm, do something here. Hello? Yes? Can you come on Thursday at noon? All right. It's me and Storm and Norm Room. You know this guy, Norm Rumack? He's like 75 years old, and he wants to invite you to his part. Anyways, all right. So can you confirm? All right. I'm doing an air show right now. If it wasn't you, I wouldn't take the call. I wouldn't take it for Norm, but for you, I'll take it. All right. Thanks a lot. All right. It's confirmed, Norm. It is confirmed. We're going to be joined. You want to tell them? I think I told you, but do you want to tell them who it is?
The guy we know, our good friend, the Long Range Bomber was his nickname when he played the NBA, and we're talking about Tracy Murray, the UCLA grad.
Yes, Tracy Murray from UCLA. He will preview the Final Four, and hopefully I'll ask him a couple questions about the ladies' Final Four. It's going to be status quo. All number one seeds are in, and for the ladies' side, also that. So that's Thursday at noon. Special guest, former NBA player. He's an NBA champion. He scored 50 points in game. Tracy, the Long Range Murray, and Norm. Come on, okay? I'm going to have to ask him some wrestling questions since WrestleMania is about 2 weeks away. All right, Norm, I know. Get your questions in for Tracy Murray. Again, fans, check us out here, 12 Ounce Sports, Fired Up Live, Thursday at noon. That's Thursday. But let's look forward to today. Norm, let's talk briefly, not preview, briefly about the Final Four. Again, we'll preview the complete Final Four Thursday. But like you said, I got to admit it. You said it. All number one seeds are in the Final Four.
Yeah, well, my prediction was originally I thought 3 out of the 4 would make it, but I said it's possible. 4 out of the 4 is very rare. I think it's only happened twice in NCAA history where all 4 number one seeds have made it. So my prediction was close. I got lucky. But, I mean, you know, they got great teams in the Final Four, and I'm going to go with Duke to win it all. It's not only they always have a tough team to play against, but it's part of their school DNA, right? It's part of their history is the greatness that they've exhibited in terms of the number of Final Fours and championships that they've won. And not only under, you know, Coach Mike Krzyzewski previously, but ongoing now. So the legacy continues for Duke. Now, I may be wrong, but I think they're, for lack of a better term, a safe pick, good pick. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we get to see some great basketball in the semifinal and the final.
Yeah, we have seen great basketball leading up to the Final Four. Of course, the Final Four kicks off in San Antonio. All right, San Antonio, the home of the Spurs. And San Antonio's having not bad a year in the NBA, but all number one seeds are in. And Norm, I'm going on a limb. Yeah, I know you picked Duke. I tend to agree with that, but I guarantee you the finals will be number one seeds. How about that?
That's a pretty risky pick there, Joe.
I know. Like you talk about, I should be a gambler, shouldn't I? I should have my own betting show here. Get jolted with Jolt and Joe, right? I should have that. But let's talk about Duke. Duke is a great franchise for college basketball. Now, all 4 number one seeds. Does that mean if you don't make the finals or if you don't win it, are you upset as a number one seed?
Well, you won't be seeded number 1 at the end, right? They seed them by.
That's my point. If you're number one seed, but you don't win the championship, are you really upset? Because you've done what you had to do to get to the Final Four and obviously to get to the championship.
No, but you're upset because you didn't win at all. That's what you're there for, right? So you'd be upset personally or, you know, internally. But you're right about the fact that if you're a number one seed, you got the Final Four, you did your job initially, but there's still one job to be done, or two, semifinal and a final. That's why these athletes are great, is because they compete to win. It's all about winning. You want to have fun also, but it's all about winning. So, of course, the three teams that don't win it all will be disappointed. They'll be happy that they made the Final Four because that's pretty special, but they'll be heartbroken that they got that far and they couldn't win the whole thing. Kind of like the Oilers were last year in the National Hockey League. A magnificent season, magnificent playoff, but heartbreaking as heck to lose it in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
All right. So once again, Auburn will take on Florida. That's Saturday, April 5th. Next Saturday, 6:09 p.m., 8:49 p.m., Duke and Houston. Which of these two games are you looking forward to the most?
I'm looking forward to all of them, Joe. They're Final Fours. It's like, what's not to like, you know?
Of course.
Look forward to all of them.
And he's called Duke to win it all. We'll see if that happens next Monday. And if Norm is right, you got to listen to Fired Up Live, Fired Up Network, and 12-Ounce Sports. I digress. Let's get to Major League Baseball. The first weekend of Major League Baseball is in the books, Norm. And Norm, let's talk about your team, where you're situated, the Toronto Blue Jays. 2-2. Not bad, not great. But the two losses, the pitching has been horrible. All right? The pitching has been horrible. The so-called $600 million man, Vlad Guerrero, what has he done in first 4 games? Bo Bichette, okay, he's been okay the first couple games. But if you're a Blue Jay fan, 2-2 against Baltimore, in any other year, you're open, not bad. But losing the 2 games that they lost is unbelievable. With Lovejoy, and Scherzer already injured. What do you think of the first weekend for the Blue Jays specifically?
Well, Joe, I don't think you can go by the first week or first weekend. They say that the Major League Baseball season doesn't really start to kick in for most teams till about May, maybe about 6 weeks in. And, they say by the All-Star break, the standings at the All-Star break usually reflect what the standings will look like, not exactly, but pretty closely at the end of the season. But this is this early in the season, Joe, it's almost like a continuation of spring training. I don't think you can go too crazy on anything. Other than the Dodgers are off to another hot start, and I expect them fully to be back in the World Series and to win the World Series. But for most clubs, you still, look at what happened with the Blue Jays with Max Scherzer. Now he's on the injured list, right? So for 15 games, I believe, because he's got to get his
15-day IL, roughly about 2 weeks, which means about 3 starts.
Yeah. Which would be, I estimate based on the number of total games. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. The point is he's got troubles with his thumb, and the thumb issues affect the rest of his throwing motion. So he's got to get his thumb straightened out and figure out with the training staff, the medical staff, what's going on and how they can best get him back in gear. But, you're dealing with a 40-year-old athlete. 40 years old is hard for any pro athlete. There's not that many that make it to age 40 in any sport. So we'll see how it goes for Max Scherzer, but not the kind of start to the season he was hoping for, the Blue Jays were hoping for.
All right, you mentioned the Dodgers. They open up the season and outside of the U.S. and Canada. They win those 2. They win the games. Dodgers appear unstoppable, but a team that is supposed to be in the National League East, the top team, haven't won yet. All right, and Milwaukee also 0-3. Yankees, they're hitting the cover off the ball, 15 home runs in 3 games. Which one of you want to touch first?
Well, I did pick when the question was raised when you and I were on with our great friend Eric Cohen.
He's your good friend, not mine.
Okay. I picked as the American League MVP Aaron Judge. And now Eric correctly pointed out he doesn't have the protection in the lineup he would have had he did have a year ago. but seems to me, Joe, he's still pretty capable at the plate, right?
Imagine if they add some guy number 27 from the Toronto Blue Jays. How about protection for that, right? So it's like,
Although he has said he doesn't want to play in New York,
yeah, but
supposedly.
he also said he'll listen to offers. If they're going to give him $600 million, I think both ears are perking up.
Yeah, I think he'll learn to love New York for the right kind of money.
New York, New York. So again, did anything over the weekend? I know you didn't watch all the games or whatever, but did anything strike you as, wow, you can't believe it, or wow, they're really going to be better than I thought, or like Boston is now at the bottom of the American League East. Nobody would have thought even after 4 games they're 1-3. I know it's early, but technically the Blue Jays have a better record than Boston.
Well, again, Joe, it's so early in the schedule. It's almost ridiculous to focus on it. The Red Sox have some injury problems to start with. So do other teams. They're not the only ones. The Yankees do. We talked about them, right? So injuries are just part of the game, especially the number of games that they play. And I don't think anybody in Boston is panicking all that much. I still think they've got a decent team. And I still think the American League East will be real tight, top to bottom, with all the clubs, and eventually things will level out. So I think we may be the tightest race they've ever had, but they could prove me wrong. But my gut instinct tells me you're going to have a real tight race in the AL East once again.
And Aaron Judge, it doesn't matter if he has protection, unprotected, whatever. Guy's at least on his way to hit at least 30, if not 40, in the first weekend of the season. Unbelievable if you're a Yankee fan. And if you're a Met fan, you spend all this money and you're 500. Okay, I know, like we say, it's younger, but when they see across the street the Yankees hitting the cover off the ball, they haven't lost, and Mets are struggling at the beginning.
Well, again, Joe, not to be too repetitive, but in the first week of the season, I mean, really, it's not going to mean a whole lot. When we get to the middle of May, no matter who's struggling or who's hot or who's in between. So I think you just take it with a grain of salt, like it's another week of spring training. We'll see what happens, although it counts in the standings, so I can't say it's like spring training. But I'm sure the teams will tweak whatever little problems they're having. And we'll see more like what we expect to see, I think, from these clubs, good or bad, whatever. Be more realistic in about 2 or 3 weeks than it is right now.
All right, I have a note here. And I'll answer this because I know you were working over the weekend. The XFL, or I should say, the United Football League, formerly XFL, opened up their league this weekend. Of course, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, his former wife Danny Garcia, and Disney are now part of the UFL, United Football League. They opened up, and you know what? Let's see. Again, when you go up against the NFL, I know they're not going up against the NFL, but they're a separate spring league and all that. I was watching a little bit of it because I don't know if you know this, Norm. I'm friends with The Rock. Okay. And I know you're going to ask me. I will endeavor by the year 2027, between now and 2027, I will endeavor to get The Rock here on Fired Up Network 12-ounce sports. All right? I will do it. All right, that's number one. But football is football. But I don't know how many people, and we're in Canada and we're in America, North America, and all that, are interested in the first weekend of Major League Baseball, gearing up in playoffs for NBA, gearing up for the NHL, are interested in spring football. That's the main problem. Or what I think, the football is great and everything like that. Okay. But that's the main problem. I don't care if you play it. You can't play it against the NFL. You probably can't play it against the CFL. So where are you going to play it? Play it closer, in my view. I don't know if you say the same thing. Play it closer to when the NFL starts in training camp at the end of July, August. There's some preseason games in September. We're underway. So why can't they play that starting in June till the end of July? That's my view of, if you're really going to play football, play it like that. What do you say?
Well, I think this time of year is a lousy time to play football. I mean, maybe not So for hardcore football fans, especially with the big colleges in the southern United States where the climate is a lot warmer, or it's hot, never mind warm.
Yeah.
So for them, maybe it's not, but I think, you need a break from any sport for a while. And, the Super Bowl wasn't that long ago, right? Just in February. So I think I agree with you on that spring football is, I don't know how well they sell, but maybe in the small towns it would sell well, but or maybe if just for hardcore football fans, depending on how much they charge and what the quality. I don't know what the quality of the league is. So in any case, yeah, it'd be too much football too soon for me, just speaking personally, that's for sure.
And for those who are actually, we have a question about the CFL. The CFL actually gets it smarter, and they've been around for 120 years. The training camp is at the end of May, and even preseason is middle of June, and they start the year like third week of June, July, in time for Canada Day, America, U.S. American holiday, and everything like that. And they go till November. Yes, they sort of compete with the NFL, but sort of not. The NFL games are well, now they're Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but as CFL games during the NFL season, they don't touch Sunday. All right, so the CFL has got it right, and for you CFL fans, the Argos are the Grey Cup champions, and I know, Norm, I know you love the CFL, you love the NFL, you like balls anyways, right, Norm?
Yeah, I like football for sure.
All right, so that's the question. Thanks for your questions here on Fired Up Live, 12-ounce Sports Network. All right, Norm, let's get to the world of hockey. Okay, we touched on so far a lot of sports, but the world of hockey here, we got to give it. And as a Maple Leaf fan, and you're a Maple Leaf fan, got to give it to the Montreal Canadiens. They're struggling, and then they show up big when they need to go into Florida and defeat the Panthers. And they have back-to-back games with the Panthers, Tuesday in Montreal. And by the way, the Panthers come to Scotiabank Arena to play the Leafs on Wednesday. Big games for Montreal, Florida, and the Maple Leafs next week.
Yeah, well, it's nice to see Montreal still alive in the race for a wild card spot. It's good to see Ottawa is in a strong position for one of the wild cards. And looks like Vancouver may not make it, but
Winnipeg is the best team in the West.
Yeah, Winnipeg won again on Sunday. Very impressive win for them. So looks like we're going to have a strong contingent of Canadian teams in the NHL postseason. And when I say strong, my sleeper pick in the East, team to watch out for, they could be dangerous if they're healthy, and that's the Ottawa Senators. They're a very impressive team. And as long as Brady Tkachuk can be back and healthy, picked up some kind of a minor, I don't know if he picked up an injury, but it looked like he got a little bit hurt in today's game. But
well, if that's the playoffs, he's going to play, you know that. And right now, if the playoffs would start, Norm, take me back to 2002, the Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Ottawa Ottawa Senators. I say Trojans because this guy mentioned Ottawa Trojans when he was on the air. First of all, before we touch on Maple Leafs and Ottawa, do you want to tell that story?
Well, I call them the Trojans because their logo looks like a commercial product available in stores.
What did you call
similar
Detroit?
logo. Pardon me?
What did you call Detroit?
Oh, I called them back then, this is in the early 90s, I called them the Dead Things, not the Red Wings. So I had nicknames for all the NHL teams because I was a very biased and Leaf fan, very much a homer. But that was part of my shtick, so to speak, on the air, was being a homer and annoying fans of other teams. That's something that I enjoyed doing and having a lot of fun with.
That was a segue because the question is coming from Mark Stevens, wants to know what was your favorite name that you named a team in the National Hockey League?
Well, probably the one that I got the most feedback on was Detroit, because Toronto had a big rivalry with the Red Wings in a big 93 playoff series, which Toronto won. And I know some of the Detroit people didn't like it very much. That's for sure. I heard about that. But it was all good fun. And so that was the one I got the most feedback and the most comments about, was when I called Detroit the Dead Things. or as I said on the air, I would say the dead things. But anyway, that's the one that I got the most response to back in those days. So it was a lot of fun, though. That's the most important thing.
By the way, we weren't on the air, but last week the Philadelphia Flyers fired Tortorella with like 10 games left. Would you fire him with 10 games left?
No, I don't think it really does much. I mean, it's going to be an off season. They'll make player changes. They'll have a draft, free agent signings. So unless maybe he had a blow up with somebody in the ownership or the upper management. I don't know the whole story, Joe, but it seems a bit strange with 10 games to go. It's like, what's the point? What are you proving?
Yeah, and he was gonna, from what people are saying, he was gonna move upstairs, but they just let him go. So something had to happen. And let's face it, he's gonna retire from coaching or he needs a break, because nobody talks about the coaches. They talk about the players, but it's mentally draining for a coach. First of all, the season, then to deal with this guy and that guy and another guy and combinations and the media coming at you and everything like that. Nobody sees it from the coach's point. Okay, so it's really hard on the coach, and John Tortorella had a great I don't know, 25-year coaching, 30 years coaching. So let's hope maybe he has another coaching job, and maybe Philadelphia. From what I hear, Norm, I don't know if you heard the same thing, but Joe Quenneville is now a free to go and coach. He's cleared up everything with the National Hockey League. So you think that would be a good pickup?
Yeah, I think, based on what he had accomplished in Chicago as coach, I think that would be a good pickup for Philadelphia. And we'll see. Obviously, they need to enhance their roster a little bit, but yeah, I think that could be a good move for them.
And Philadelphia, Joe Quenneville, only one way he teaches defense first. That's where you have to start. Any successful coach, and that's the problem to Maple Leafs. They got offense and a little bit defense, but you start from the goalie out. Who knows who's going to be in net? They wanted Carter Hart, and he has his own problems there and all that. They need a solid goalie and a defense there, and they're probably going to have the rookie of the year there in Philadelphia. So hopefully next year for Philadelphia is going to be better than this year. And let's face it, you talk about Philadelphia. What about the Buffalo Sabres? Every year we say they're going to improve. They're going to make a run. They brought Lindy Ruff. Lindy Ruff was coach when Buffalo was in the Stanley Cup and everything like that. And this year is very disappointing, even though Tage Thompson has 40 goals. Tuck has like 35 goals. Their players are scoring. It's just, and they have good defense also. So maybe they don't have the goalie like Hasek. They don't have a good goalie, but what would you say about the Buffalo Sabres?
Well, just, continue through the draft, get yourself a few more Tage Thompson type players. And then you'll be going in the right direction. They need to draft well. They need to develop well, and they need to, sign a few more veterans. They've got some good leaders in that dressing room, but they need to get maybe a few more experienced players. So maybe through free agency they could bolster their lineup enough so they could finally end their drought of whatever it is, 14 years straight without a playoff spot. It's a long time.
I have so many questions here. Rick wants to know who was your favorite athlete growing up, and who was the best athlete you ever interviewed?
Well, I was fortunate to have a lot of great interviews. There's a long list of guys who I interviewed in baseball and hockey and basketball. Boy, I have to think on the spot of.
All right, so think about it. I'm going to do a promo here. Remember, fans, to check us out Thursday, exclusive. And this is probably one of the biggest guys 12-ounce Sports Network has ever got. The long-range bomber, former Toronto Raptor, NBA champion, 50-point scorer, Tracy Murray will be joining myself and Norm. Norm, dress up a little bit better, all right? Dress up a little bit better. I'm going to send you, all right? Dress up a little bit better. Tracy Murray will be joining us to talk about the Final Four, to talk about the NBA, to talk about the Raptors' 30th anniversary, And to talk about, and Norm, you're anxious for this one, WrestleMania 41 in Vegas, April 19th and 20th. And Norm, night one, I'm going to exclusively tell you, 2 nights event now, 2 nights for WrestleMania, 19th and 20th. Night one, a three-way dance. Roman Reigns, acknowledge him, Norm. Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins. Night one main event. We're going to be talking about that Thursday with Tracy. All right. So Norm, let's talk about one other team here. I'm watching Calgary. Unfortunately, it looks like they're not going to make the playoffs. Edmonton, it looks like they're resting Connor McDavid. Draisaitl came, scored 2 goals. Now he has 51 goals. This guy, and not a lot of people still talk about this guy. They got Connor McDavid, of course. He's amazing, but Draisaitl is good too, and he came back and Edmonton beat Calgary. I think they should rest again I think it's going to be the 4th year that Edmonton will play the Los Angeles Kings in the first round. This time, it looks like the Los Angeles Kings may have home advantage. Does that do anything for that series, Norm?
No, I don't think so. I don't think home advantage is a big deal for a team that made the Stanley Cup Finals, although prior to their game with Toronto, the LA Kings had only lost 1 game at home the entire season. So now they've lost 2, which is still a pretty darn good record, right? So the Kings are tough at home. But, the Oilers are a 7-game Stanley Cup finalist, right? They didn't win it, but they were a 7-game Stanley Cup finalist. So obviously playing on the road is not really a big deal for them. But having said that, LA obviously defends quite well at home. So could make for a cracker of a series, that's for sure.
A cracker, eh? An oil.
That's what they call it in football or soccer, if you prefer.
Yeah. Well, you want to talk about footy, but I want to go back just one thing to the NBA. We did not touch on this, and this actually, if this happens, should be an amazing series. Number 1 seed in the East is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Number 1 seed in the West, Oklahoma City Thunder. Imagine if these two teams meet. What do you say about that? What a change. You look at every year, okay, LeBron, Cleveland, and Miami and all that, but Oklahoma and Cleveland, now number 1 seed. If that happens in, what we talked about, the Final Four, number 1 seed meeting in the finals, imagine that. How exciting of a series that would be.
Well, imagine the East Final if it turns out that it's Boston and Cleveland. That alone, that could be as good or even better than the NBA Finals. I'm not saying it won't be. I personally, if we live in Canada, most of us want to see Shai Gilgeous Alexander, in the final and hoisting the NBA championship trophy. So that would be a real treat. So I'm cheering for SGA and OKC. But that aside, just in total objectivity, a Boston-Cleveland Eastern Conference final would be a real treat too. I could see that, maybe going 7 games. You can't take either of those teams lightly. And I think if you're a neutral, you want to see the best teams make it. So maybe we have a Boston-Cleveland final. The West is kind of wide open. There's a lot of teams that could go up against OKC. It could be the Lakers, could be Denver. I mean, who knows, right? It's hard to say. And how about a sleeper in the East like the Detroit Pistons? We briefly talked about them, Joe. They've kind of remind me of the Tigers last year in Major League Baseball. And suddenly we've got Detroit, which is great to see if you're a neutral. Detroit, Motor City is revived in professional sports. Look at the Lions and now the Tigers, and the Red Wings are starting to hopefully turn the corner. They've got some good pieces there. They need to get some playoff action themselves. And so, Detroit's kind of been revived as a great sports town.
And you talk about Detroit being revived. What about if you're a Phoenix fan? You got Kevin Durant, Booker, and everybody, and you're still battling to make the play-in. Forget about playing in the play-in. To make the play-in, it's like, and this is why we love sports. Cleveland for years, they had LeBron, but then they lost LeBron and then they're at the bottom. And you know what the point of this is? Norm, I tell you all the time, well, what are the Raptors doing? What you got to trust the process. Right now, the Raptors would have had a top 5 pick. They're winning games. Now it's going to be a top 10 pick. At the end of the year, they're going to drop like a top 20 pick. Nobody cares. Nobody calls to the carpet, Masai Ujiri. Nobody. You're a top 5 pick. Your team is crap. Play crap. So I hate saying tank, but you got to tank. You got to tank. What do you say?
Yeah, I agree. Look at all these great. Now, I don't know if they'll turn out to be great pros, but some pretty exciting college players, and I'm sure there's guys playing in Europe as well that we haven't seen. So I think the Raptors would have been better situated to make sure they have a first and second round pick, or picks plural, and stock up on more young players, and then be in a position to challenge. I agree with the term tanking. That's how, if you look at the National Hockey League, a lot of teams have tanked before to get the top picks. And there's creative ways of doing it. You play your younger players, or you call up players from your farm team, so to speak, and give them some playing time. There's lots of ways of tanking that you can make it look good or make it look acceptable. And I think the Raptors should have done that.
Yeah, they should have done that. And who knows that the way they're playing, they could make the play in. Put it that way. If they don't, they lose a couple games, they still, I think they're 5 points out of the last play. And if you're a Raptor fan, like, I know you want them to make anything could happen in the NBA and sports and all that, but come on. Like, you have a top 5 pick right there. And now, who knows? And I don't know if Masai Ujiri or the coach or Scotty Barnes, we got to win every game or whatever. There's teams that, yeah, we got to win every game, but they don't show up every game. You know that. They don't show up every game. So let's, if we got 2 weeks left in the NBA season. Actually, next Sunday is the end of next Sunday is the end of NBA season, and we got 2 weeks left in NHL, and obviously just starting out is Major League Baseball, so it's going to be a hot April. And I mentioned hot April, Norm. It looks like it's going to be 19 degrees on Thursday. 19 degrees on Thursday. Norm, Thursday when we do the show, you can wear your tank top, all right? You can wear your tank. 19 degrees, but shave your armpits, all right? Shave your armpits.
Yeah.
All right.
Be sure to do that, Joe.
Are you sure? Okay. And here, we have one more final question, comes from Ralph. What is your greatest sports movie?
Oh, it's got to be Slapshot. I mean, ask most people in Canada to say the same thing. With Paul Newman, you can't beat Slapshot. I mean, I could watch it 25 times and still laugh as intensely as I did the first time I saw it. There's no better sports movie than Slapshot. It's just, even guys who aren't hockey fans enjoyed watching Slapshot. I mean, Paul Newman really made it. But yeah, it's based on a exaggerated, probably semi-realistic portrayal of minor league hockey back in the 1970s and minor professional hockey in the USA, in the small towns of Pennsylvania and Ohio and whatnot. So, it's easily my number one movie pick in terms of sports movies would be Slapshot for sure.
All right, and I tell everybody you got some slap shots in your head also, right? When you were playing, what position were you playing? A right winger or left winger or what?
Yeah, I was a right winger, Joe.
Right. Did you get some slap shots on your head or what?
No, but you sure look like you did.
This is the cheap shots that I've been living with for 30 years from this guy. All right. So I'm going to come back with breaking news. You will only hear this news here on Fired Up Live, 12-Ounce Sports Network. But before I give you the breaking news, I want you to check out this, how to purchase tickets.
Need tickets to that next event? Well, at 12-Ounce Sports, we've got them with soccer anywhere in the world. Tickets to any venue, any sport. Want to go to NCAA or NFL football matches? We've got them.
Yeah.
baseball at every level. Every Power 5 matchup is available. Don't forget, costumes and paint are optional. What's that? You want to go to Broadway? We have those too. Want to jam out? Every concert, every artist. That's right, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got the tickets for less. 12ozsports.com/tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets.
All right, so that was 12ouncesports.com. Check them out for special tickets. Here, I'm going to tell you some breaking news. You won't hear it from anywhere else. Looks like the Maple Leafs are going to relieve Brendan Shanahan of the duties at the end of the year. And I hear whispers, little whispers going around that they may bring in Wayne Gretzky. That's number one. Number two, Mitch Marner is up for a new contract, and he wants 14 million, 13 to 14 million. That means more than Austin Matthews. And he loves Toronto. He has a wife and everything like that, but he's going to start listening to offers, and namely the two teams I hear, and he's got to be close to home. You know that, Norm. He's got to be close to home. The Ottawa Senators, imagine that, and the Montreal Canadiens. And if there is a team out west in Canada, how about pairing up with Connor McDavid and Zach Hyman, former Maple Leaf player and great friend of Mitch Marner. Now, I mentioned The Rock, okay? And the UFL and all that, but The Rock, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it. You know why, Norm? The Rock can't do anything with me. Look at that, all right? The Rock can't do anything with me, and I'm the president of the province of Canada, the mayor-elect of North America, and soon to run for the mayor of Zimbabwe. I can't spell it, but I know I can run it. The Rock told me the UFL is going to expand. 2 teams in 26 and maybe 2 teams in 27. All right. So there you go. And here it is. I left the best for last. Vlad Guerrero, mi amigo. Right. That means my friend, Norm. All right. He's going to be rich. He's already rich. He's going to be richer. And then richer. And then richer. It looks like the Blue Jays did offer him a $500 million deal. But he has a problem with it. Because it's not Blue Jays being Blue Jays offered him Canadian. He wants American to make it $600 million, and that's where we're at. There's still a gap in the contract. Now, I have heard, again, the same birdie told me they're still negotiating, but Vlad Guerrero is getting fed up. He didn't tell it to me. He told it to a good friend of mine that he gave them the number he wants. And they still haven't come to terms with that. Now, as we close out this, if they did give him the number he wants, and the Blue Jays still, there's a gap, isn't there a problem with the Blue Jays management? Or whoever's setting okay, he's our number one star. He's the face of the franchise. He wants $560 million. We're offering $520. Why are you offering $520 if he told you specifically, I will sign for $560? Norm?
I don't know. I can't speak for the Blue Jays. I don't know.
Thanks a lot. I set it up for you to say something about Rogers or whatever. And what do you say? You know what, Norm? I'll talk for you. Since I'm going to get in trouble, but whatever. The Blue Jays are more preoccupied and selling hot dogs on Looney Night every Tuesday during home season. All right, how many hot dogs? If you have a Looney Night, how many hot dogs would you eat, Norm?
Oh, I don't know, probably 6 or 7.
And who's going to pay that $7?
You.
Yeah, of course. All right, but that's the latest breaking news item. And by the way, if you want some wrestling news, check out firedupnetwork.ca, but I'll give you a snippet of wrestling news, Expect the unexpected at WrestleMania. John Cena turned heel. John Cena, Cody Rhodes, night 2, main event for WrestleMania. but is it? All right, Norm, any final thoughts?
Any final thoughts? No, but I always have thoughts, and I'm sure we'll have some great ones when we join our friend Tracy Murray, the long-range bomber, former Toronto Raptor, Washington Wizard, and LA Laker, amongst other teams. A great guy, UCLA grad, and a great friend of ours, Tracy Murray.
What do you mean when we will join? He's joining our show. That's number one. Are you telling me Tracy Murray is bigger than me?
I'm afraid so. I'm afraid so.
Are you? You know what? Take off those glasses. He may be 6'9". He may be 250 pounds, which I have him on. All right. He may be 6'9", which you're 5 inches lower than him. What are you? 6'2", 6'3"? What are you?
No, 6 feet.
You shrunk in your old age, eh?
Yeah, I have. You're right.
And by the way, here I'm gonna say it. On May 10th, that's a Saturday, May 10th, Norm Rumack turned 70 years old. We're planning a big extravaganza. Even my sister may come in. All right, for Norm Rumack. If you want to come to the extravaganza, only thing I'm gonna ask you is you have to pay. All right, you have to pay because I'm not paying. I've been carrying this guy for 30 years. All right. If you want to come, email me, joe@firedupnetwork.ca. I'll let you know where the place is. If you want to pick the place, if you want to pay, we'll consider that too. But Norm, all seriousness, May 10th. Pretend it's May 10th. How do you feel when you're 70 years old?
Ask me on May 10th. We're not there yet.
All right. On that note, and anything, I promised that we would say something about footy or whatever. Anything you want to say in the soccer world? By the way, Friday when we have the coach Carmen Asako, I'm going to ask him again. This Davies deal is not finished yet. His team is coming and want to sue Canada and everything like that. So we'll ask Carmen Asako. Check it out. Every Monday, myself and Norm at noon. Thursday, myself and Norm at noon. Monday to Friday, soccer down here, 8 p.m. And Fridays at noon, the soccer show, an amazing soccer show. And I can't forget soccer down here every day, Monday to Friday. John Nelson and his team. John does a great job, OSG Sports. But Norm, anything you want to touch on the EPL, La Liga, Bundesliga, anything?
No, not much to touch on because the world of football has been on the international break. So there's not been much league action to go on because of that.
All right, Norm, tell everybody how they could get a hold of you. And remember, check us out on Thursday for the long-range bomber, Tracy Murray.
Yeah, you can check me out right here on Fired Up on 12 Ounce Sports Network. So that's the best place to find me, like you found me now. And I'll be here twice a week with Joe and look forward to it. So thank you.
And Betty just chimed in saying she likes your shirt. So anything you want to say by the way, that's my sister. So be careful what you say.
Yeah, always great to hear from the lovely, beautiful, and smart Betty. Love
Who's
Betty.
smarter, her brother or her?
What's that?
Who's smarter? Who's the smart one in the family?
Well, Joe, it's kind of a redundant question.
I know. The president of the province of Canada, the mayor-elect of North America, soon to run for the mayor of Mozambique. I can't spell it, but go ahead. All right. So, and by the way, today is Mark Benatar's birthday, so happy birthday, Mark. Remember to check us back here, Thursday for the long-range bomber, Tracy Murray, and Norm on Fired Up Network. On Tuesday, I will have a major announcement that will concern you, that will concern the world of sports. Check us out on Tuesday and Wednesday. I just got the email Wednesday, and hopefully we're going to do this every Wednesday afternoon. The Cat, Ernest Miller, his show, The Cat's Corner, is exclusively on Fired Up Network, 12 Ounce Sports. Check it out on Wednesdays here. Norm, take care, and I'll talk to you in a couple days.
Thank you, Joe, and thanks everybody for watching. We appreciate it. Have a good day, a good week, and we'll check you back here on Fired Up Sports on the 12 Ounce Sports Network. Thank you.
You are watching the flagship show on the Fired Up Network.